How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Salamander Wilds, and wow, do I have a crazy video for all of you today. Really trying to wrap my head around this whole thing. So, I've just made a really crazy purchase. I've never spent this much money on an animal before, and thinking about the price point, I'm still kicking myself for it. It's just a steep price tag. $800 for 2 salamanders. Yeah, well, let's sit on that. I'll give you all a moment to, say all the crazy things you want to say. Call me crazy, because I'm telling you, it's crazy, but these salamanders are really, really incredible. And actually, let's talk about that price tag for just a moment, then we'll get into the rest of the video. So, I've just purchased Shangcheng Stout Salamanders. They're native to China, and these price tags on certain salamanders, especially nowadays, can be pretty steep, because I've said in past videos, salamanders aren't captive bred often, and on top of that, availability is a factor, and even actually, let's just focus on captive breeding for a second. Some species are just more difficult than others to breed, right? So, a lot of factors that goes into the price tag of some of these species, and we're going to cover a lot of those reasons. So, without rambling here, yeah, this was a pretty crazy purchase. I don't know if it was the dumbest purchase I've ever made, or maybe the coolest. But I'm super excited for these salamanders. They should be arriving Tuesday. So when they come, we're going to unbox them, add them to the enclosure, and before all that, let's actually look at these salamanders in depth, talk about them, and get to know them better. So if you enjoy the video, please remember to leave a like, share, comment down below. Let's look at the Shangcheng Stout Salamander. Okay, so I've pulled up a few things here to take a look at the Stout Salamander, and there's a lot of unique features. So when I first saw the listing for the salamanders, this is essentially what I saw, just without the gills. They're not larvae, but they do have that juvenile white speckling. So we get to see that younger salamanders have different coloration, or I guess you could say sub-adult salamanders, right? They have this white speckling that seems to disappear when the salamander matures, or at least becomes much less pronounced, right? So there is some color variation in the species, but ultimately the white speckling just really seems to go away for the most part. So yeah, just taking a look at the species and where it actually comes from, because this is how I've tried to tailor the enclosure. I always say it's really best to tailor an enclosure to the species that you're keeping. And when we look at this species, we can clearly see it's highly aquatic, right? It's got a gravel bottom here, and let's see what else here. Very, very rocky stream bed, right? So that immediately tells me, right, we got flowing water here. This is a salamander that thrives in a well-oxygenated environment, and rocks are really associated with this, so I have something along these lines. So this is pretty different from my other enclosures. I don't normally have a ton of rocks in those setups, right? It's just mostly aquatic plants and some spider wood. So this will be a different approach here. Right here it says the Stout Salamander is stout, right? Hence the name there. With the cylindrical body, pronounced sexual dimorphism, the adult male develops a thick, broad head. And these are not small salamanders, actually. They get pretty sizable, which is really, really awesome, right? So they won't go unnoticed in the enclosure. They get to be about 7 inches, and females seemingly just a little bit under that. So it's a really nice, sizable salamander when they reach maturity, and they have some really unique features, despite them admittingly not being, I think, as colorful or as eye-catching as my other newts that I have, like the blue-tailed firebellies. The eastern newts have red spots, green and yellows on them. Those are all newts that have very vibrant, eye-catching color. And in comparison, clearly this is opposite of that. So for me, it's not just simply the color going on here. Like, this coloration right here is actually very reminiscent of a lungless salamander, the slimy salamander. But these are not in the same family or genus, actually. And when we take a closer look at this species here, I'm not even going to try to say this family. I'm going to butcher it, I'm sure. I can't pronounce all of these. Alright, let's take a stab at it anyway. It's family Hynobidae or Hynobidae, but the takeaway here is Pachyhynobius. There we go. We'll leave it at that, right? And this salamander is a monotypic species within its genus. So there's no other salamander in this genus except the Shangcheng Stout Salamander, which really also adds to how unique it is. And when we look at, these photos here too, we really get to see that head shape on the male. The way I'm going to be keeping it isn't really too different than what I already do, which is awesome. So, and we'll get more into the enclosure in just a moment, but let's also look at some of these observations on iNaturalist, because I think this is really awesome. Last observation was June 30th, 2025, right? This is native to China, and people are still going out and observing this species in the wild. That, to me, is absolutely incredible. Look at that larva there. That is so amazing. And so we get to actually see, right here, the natural habitat, that natural stream bed there, all gravel and everything. So, that also brings me to how I really want to do the enclosure again, because I stay away from gravel because it's a safety concern. It could be hazardous towards a salamander if they swallow it, if they cannot pass it through, right? So I'm currently thinking about staying bare bottom, but I'm also debating on whether or not I want to add some gravel of some sort to really mimic the habitat here. Let's look at this photo. Blurry, but this is not something that could be ignored, cannot be understated. Those bite wounds, if you guys think, which I do too, salamanders are clumsy, silly little animals, because they are. I sometimes wonder how they function in the wild, because they are clumsy eaters. Except, against one another, they're clearly very ferocious eaters, and they show clear aggression, and these are all bite wounds. So they are able to hurt each other. Now, salamanders are, very well known for growing their limbs back, regenerating. So the salamander later in the post was talked about to be okay, but that photo was taken at the time that it happened. So clearly, if this happens in my case, I have to, account for this possibility. And so I have to have some precautions. I have to have some clear hiding places for these animals. Or maybe if it comes to it, maybe I have to separate them. I'm excited about it, but clearly there are precautions I have to take here. Okay, guys, so we also have to talk about something really insane here. I was doing more research on this species, and just doing a quick Google search. I looked up quite a lot of things before, but it looks like there are only 2 videos on the whole internet about this species of salamander. I already viewed this one, and I don't even know if I want to include this one, because to be honest, it doesn't really highlight them, specifically. It definitely gives them a mention. So, the salamander is featured in the video for sure, but this video, now look at this. This video goes in depth about this species. You would have to really listen to it. It's not in English, which is totally fine, but major credit to the person that did this, because this highlights this species in such detail in the wild. You know, you really get to see how it interacts with within the stream that they live. Clearly, this species lives mostly in an area where rocks are such a prominent feature of its habitat. So, you know, the fact that, again, this is the only video out there is really insane to me. So I'm gonna stop it right there. Let's just pause on that for a second. I mean, look at this species. This salamander is so cool looking, and I'm really astounded that there's just really only one video that truly highlights this salamander at all. So you know, doing a video on them from my end and being able to contribute some knowledge to highlight the species as well, you know, here's hoping that more people can actually find out about the species. And I totally recommend going to view this video for yourself as well. The link is in the description below. Go check it out. It is such a great video. So just really astounded and happy to put more information out there on this species, because clearly there's not much out there. Alrighty, so just left FedEx there. Just picked up the package. Got them in a relatively small box, so nothing major. Gonna head back home, unbox them, get it all on video, and we'll introduce them to the enclosure. So see you all in a bit. Alrighty, well, just got them home, and enclosure is ready to go. 20-gallon high. Got some flowing water, tons of hides. So let's get them out of here. Looks like they're packed really well too, which is nice. Oh, let's see what we got. Oh, kept nice and cool. That's also very important. Very good. Very good. Oh yeah, there they are. Look at that. That looks like a male. Could be wrong. Gotta get used to how they look. Oh, I may have a male and female in here. That head shape is noticeable right away. Let me open this up. Okay, and yeah, look at that paddle tail right away. Yeah, they're not small. They're really a really nice size, and I think they get a little bigger than this from what I understand. So let's see what we got going on here. Now, it's hard to tell with that head shape. Do I have two males here? It's possible, because they both seemingly have kind of broad looking heads, but they got speckles all over and everything. Really beautiful. So yeah, let's get them out one by one, get them in the enclosure. And then the second one. Ooh, these guys are a little slimy, actually. And there you go, too. There they go. There they go. Look at that. Look at that. That's really cool. And then the other one just slipped down that way. Oh, super cool. This is super cool, folks. Yeah, I'd be very curious to find out which one is a male and female. Like, I'm thinking this one seems to have a broader head. It's a little hard to tell from top view, but from the side like this. Yeah, this one really looks like it's got a broader head than this one over here, especially when they look at you just head on like that. This one's definitely got a broader head, so I actually could have a male and female here, which is pretty cool. Look at that. Such a beautiful salamander, too. Oh, these are super cool. And to think that these salamanders actually belong to a family that's considered to be the most primitive of all salamanders, right? So what that means is that these would closely resemble the most common ancestor to modern day salamanders, right? So that's really, really cool. And they belong to a family that is a sister branch of Cryptobranchidae, right? So those would be the giant salamanders, such as the hellbender, Japanese giant salamander. So this is just really, really cool when you think about all those details. So yeah, sure, maybe not the most flashy looking salamanders, but these are so incredibly unique. This is actually really incredible, and just seeing them like this makes me excited for them just that much more now that I have them, and really, really looking forward to see how they grow and how they interact with everything. So this is super exciting to have something of this magnitude, and you know, just such an awesome opportunity. And so I let them settle into the enclosure, I gave them a few hours, and decided to feed them some frozen bloodworms. And I wasn't really sure if they were going to eat right away. After having gone through the whole shipping process, I would have imagined that they would have needed time to settle in, but surprisingly, they were active right away, and they ate right away. So the thing is about this species, they are highly aggressive, and that was very much put on display when they were fed. Nipping is very prevalent between the two of them when it comes to food, which you're about to see here. And so this is something I'm really going to have to keep an eye on. It's actually pretty normal from my experience that newts will nip at each other. Obviously these aren't newts, but again, you know, similar behaviors being displayed when it comes to feeding. So that isn't too much of a surprise. What is a surprise is just how much more aggressive they are, and that seems to be the big difference overall, which is pretty obvious, just going back to that photo that I had shared earlier on in the video of that one individual that had bite marks all over. So this is just something I really have to keep an eye on when I feed them. But outside of feeding, they leave each other alone. They either keep to themselves, or sometimes they cross paths and just kind of chill out together, but they don't do anything more than that, besides when it comes to feeding. So far, they've taken very easily to frozen bloodworms, and now I'm about to try some earthworms, which is one of the best food sources you could give any salamander or newt. And if it wasn't obvious at this point, I'd say that the personality and behavior of these salamanders are very different than what you would see in most available newts and salamanders in the hobby. You can just see immediately how alert they are, how quick and energetic they are. They explore their surroundings, are constantly just seemingly alert of almost everything around them. And to emphasize that, just look at how quickly the Stout Salamander goes after that earthworm. It actually looks quite vicious. You know, I've said before, salamanders, newts, they're predators. But the way that they eat and hunt for food sometimes seems very clumsy. But when it comes to this species, they're just super active, seemingly a little more focused and ready to go. Of course, that isn't to say that these salamanders don't have their moments as well. They definitely aren't aware of everything. It does take a few tries sometimes for them to find their food, even if it's right in front of them. And that's just been the experience that I've had so far in keeping these in comparison to the newts that I have. These salamanders absolutely have moments where they're just chilling out and not being super energetic. But in comparison to the newts, I would say my newts are much more docile. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap up the video here. This was, I think, a really good introduction to such an obscure and rare species in captivity. And I'm glad my video helps to contribute to a species that I'm sure most people haven't even heard of. And when you consider, it seems like, besides my video now, that there's only one video actually dedicated to this species that really highlights them at all on the entirety of the internet, it really makes me excited and thankful that I get to contribute some knowledge to the species. So who knows, maybe there are other videos out there, but I sure as heck couldn't find any at all. And so when you consider that $800 price tag for the pair, there's a lot of things here to consider as to why they even cost that much. The scarcity of the species in captivity. These were captive bred. They were actually born 2023, so I have an approximate age of how old they are, at least 2 years. Their difficulty to breed overall, and an overall lack of information on these species in captivity just really makes this pretty exciting. There's obviously some more information out there about these salamanders in general, due to them not being too rare in the wild, it seems. And I still find it really cool that people are going out there in the wild to find them. And then when you also consider that this salamander belongs to a family that is the sister branch of the giant salamanders, these are also considered to be the most primitive salamanders as well. I think it just makes for such a unique species to own, and I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity to work with them. And as far as the enclosure, I really tried to find a balance to mimic some characteristics of their habitat while mitigating certain risks. I used aquatic soil instead of gravel because gravel comes with potential choking hazards or impaction, right? And at least I was able to get the water flow, add some more rocks than I normally would, and lots of hiding places for them to keep away from each other if necessary as well. So all in all, I'm actually quite happy with the way the enclosure came out. I do want that Java moss to grow out more, and I think they'll do quite well in here. And so with that, this video comes to a close. I will absolutely be doing a care guide on these salamanders as I spend more time with them. That way I can compile all the information and personal experiences needed to properly convey how the salamander is kept and relay it to all of you properly as well. And so with all that said, I hope you enjoyed this introduction to the Shangcheng Stout Salamander, a species that is so incredibly unique, primitive, and shows just how diverse salamanders can be. And if you enjoyed the video, please remember to leave a like, share, comment down below, let me know what you think about the Shangcheng Stout Salamander, and please subscribe. And of course, stay curious and journey into the salamander wilds.